back to another episode of Kate and Isaiah Living Large. I'm Isaiah.
And I'm Kate.
And on this episode of our two-part series, we're going to talk about the John Candy documentary called John Candy, I Like Myself.
Yeah.
But before we begin, what's new? What's the haps?
Lots is new, I guess. My boss is back, so life at work has been much less stressful.
Nice.
It's still very busy and wonderful and all those good things, but I'm feeling much better there. I'm gonna cough.
Much less stressed. I gotcha.
And so that's been going well. And then I have lots of comedy, lots of music stuff. I had a concert last Sunday night, which went really well. My parents came, and that was nice. And I had a solo. And a man came up to me after the show and said, an older gentleman, and said, "You look like you have too much fun up there." I said, "I know, it should be criminal." And he said, "You just like exude joy." And I said, "Yeah, thank you." He's like, "You're just a real light." And so I had the thought, but I didn't say it because it was just a really nice exchange. I was like, "Where's your 40-year-old single son?" You seem nice. And I didn't say it. I just thought it. And then I went to a comedy show in Sussex on Thursday night and learned midway through the day when I was leaving from work to go to said show that it was an outdoor gig.
Oh, that in the fall?
Yeah, and so I was wearing a dress.
Were you cold the whole time, I assume?
Luckily, my car is very full of things. Like from the last time I slept in my car, I had a blanket.
Nice.
And I had a few sweaters and stuff. So I gave one of the other comics a sweater of mine, which was a really cute little beige number with 3/4 length sleeves and had sparkles. He kind of looked like Hugh Hefner, the Jedi.
I like it.
It was pretty good. And I was glad to have a blankie in the car, and I found a single glove.
Oh,
it was like multicolored.
Little Michael Jackson glove.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. It kind of looked like I should have been in a pride parade in January.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And so then Friday night, I went with my parents to see James Mullinger at another outdoor comedy show in Hampton. And that was super fun. And here we are. What about you? What's new? Oh, and one confession for you all.
Yes.
If you'll recall the last episode where I said, "Well, I better go to the gym. If I don't go to the gym, how can I show my face?" or something like that. I didn't make it.
Didn't make it to
and
the
gym.
I'm
I'm actually genuinely feeling terrible, and I need to figure it out. Time was not on my side, but you got to make time for these things. These are all the voices in my own head that I'm for
telling everyone
else because that's what we're here for. So
right.
I am very much struggling right now on that front. On that note, how are you, Isaiah?
I am pretty good. I have done my 400 meter under 10 minutes 3 times consecutively now this week.
Amazing. You're a hero.
I am going to get my official testing for my time swim next week.
Awesome.
So hopefully that goes well. And then my full-on test is on the 9th. So we'll see how that goes. And that, been busy at work, been watching lots of movies, which we'll talk a little bit about John Candy one, obviously, in the 2-part episode. But yeah, other than that, that's about it. As of recording, we recording on a Saturday instead of a Sunday this time around.
It's nice.
Watched the Jays game last night. Did you watch the Jays game last night?
Sports.
Oh my God, it's Canada.
Yeah, I'm happy for them. I'm happy for all of us. You'll go Jays.
They destroyed the Dodgers last night.
But it's game 1 of 7.
Listen, that's fine. If they destroyed the Dodgers in a series that most people expected to be a sweep. So
yeah, it's interesting. I actually saw a stat lineup thing where some people are like saying, well, the Dodgers spend way more money and blah, blah, blah. They actually don't. It's like $100 billion, like within spitting distance in terms of spending in teams and stuff like that. Like it's a lot closer than people would think. I saw the stat, like one was 350 million, that was 250 million.
Yeah, Toronto is one of the higher spending clubs. It's like the Dodgers, New York, the Red Sox and the Jays are like the top spenders.
What must feel great to be part of that Jays organization? Like, unlike the NHL, this is literally the only Canadian team in the MLB.
Sorry, Expos.
Ooh, Expos.
I miss the Expos.
I mean, it was nice to have another team. I genuinely, the last time that I watched a baseball game was in 1993 when the Jays won the World Series the last time.
Now, something historic did happen last night in the game. First ever pinch hitter grand slam in a World Series happened for the Jays last night. I know, sports.
Cool.
Listen, it's a historic thing that's never happened before in the history of the World Series, and it now belongs to...
Who was the lazy hitter who couldn't hit his own grand slam?
I know, right?
I'm just joking. Please don't hate me, Jays fans. I'm also a fan. I can't say I'm a fan because I don't watch it, but like I care, and I'm so excited for everyone. And like I said, unlike when a Canadian team gets to the... So it's not like people gritting their teeth saying, "Well, should have been someone else." It's like this is a real national moment. It's like when the Raptors went all the way.
Yeah,
it was a really fun moment. Like, and like it is very exciting. It's palpable, and I can get swept up in the excitement without watching sports.
Next game is tonight, the Saturday of recording.
It will have been Saturday.
It will have been Saturday.
We will be on game 3 or 4 by the time this airs.
We will be on game 5.
Right.
So we
might get there.
We may have tonight may be like when this recording comes out, maybe the end of it all.
This may be actually the most insensitive podcast to Jays fans, depending on how things shape up by Wednesday. So like, right. So they were so young and full of hope on Saturday.
But hey, game 6-7 comes back to Toronto.
6-7.
For those of you who don't watch on YouTube, you missed out.
Or you didn't. You probably saved yourself from something. The fact when I'm doing something popular, it's no longer popular. Although the first time I did that early on, when I first heard about it like a month and a half ago, something came up and somebody said 6-7, and I looked at my 11-year-old nephew and went 6-7, and he was like, "How do you know that?"
Everyone knows it.
Well, at that time, not everyone did. It was still pretty new. He's, "How do you know that?" And the older guy was like, "She watches TikTok, unlike mom."
Okay, let's talk a little bit about another famous Canadian, a very beloved Canadian, John Candy.
Yeah, new documentary. If you haven't seen it, do it. It's fantastic.
It was a really good documentary. So those of you who don't know who John Candy is, I hope you know who John Candy is. But if you don't, he is a Canadian beloved comedian actor. Started in Toronto. He lived in Toronto for his entire life.
And LA.
Well, he owned a house and lived.
Yeah.
He had a house in LA too, but yeah. And
he was in lots of movies. He was in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Canadian Bacon.
Stripes.
Other ones. I'm trying to think what they're called.
Uncle
Buck was a great one. That's one Macaulay Culkin was in.
That was the Macaulay Culkin one. Yeah.
Anyway, the documentary is shaped up with lots of interviews. It starts off at his funeral with Catherine O'Hara giving a speech.
Was it Catherine O'Hara? I thought it was David Aykroyd.
David
Aykroyd, the non-known cousin of Dan Aykroyd.
Dan Aykroyd is giving the eulogy. And Catherine O'Hara's near the top of the interview.
Yes,
anyway,
right.
Dan Aykroyd's eulogy I was sobbing before the first 45 seconds of this.
Yeah. I guess before we get into like some of the stuff, what is your connection with John Candy? Well, like, what do you kind of do you have like any kind of connection to him?
Like, I don't have a personal connection to him, but
obviously, but like, I mean, like,
I enjoyed his movies very much when I was a young whippersnapper. Like, we rented his movies. He's fun, but like, obviously he fits the role of being like a beloved guy. And so he died in 93.
Yes.
93. So I was 10 years old. So at that point in time, in the early 90s, we were renting videos all the time. So I watched Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and Canadian Bacon, and Uncle Buck was probably chief among them.
Heck yeah.
That I saw. And he was in Home Alone too, right? Is Home Alone 2?
Oh yes, he's in home. He's in the first. He's in the first one.
He's in the yeah. That's right, because they picked him up. That was probably
the polka player.
That's right, because that's probably what I knew him most from. What about you?
I think my first experience with John Candy would have been SCTV reruns.
Okay.
Right. I think that was like I know I watched a lot of sketch comedy when I was younger.
And so everything you've discovered about John Candy would be after he died. Like you don't remember him dying.
No, because 93 I would have been like
6.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you even 6?
Nah, I was born in 88, so math.
5.
5, yeah. So yeah, I just know like that I grew up watching sketch comedies. So I grew up SCTV, Saturday Night Live, all that. So I knew John Candy through that lens first.
Right.
And then probably my next thing would be Home Alone.
Gotcha. So I remember him dying, but I was only 10. I just remember, man, that's sad. The end. Let's move on with our lives because I'm 10 years old. But I do remember. So in this documentary, it was the first time I'd ever viewed him through like an adult lens.
Yeah, same. Like outside of like just movies and what actually really diving into his life and what his life really was.
Yeah. So, Isaiah has handily prepared like our general distribution of duties on this podcast. I come up with the topics and I show up.
And Isaiah does all the rest.
And, as the star of this podcast, that's really enough for me.
That's true. It's true.
I'm just joking. So Isaiah has done up some bullet points for us to follow for the purpose of this. Maybe you should separate this edition into chapters.
Oh my God.
Chapter 1. Body image and self-worth.
Yeah. So yeah, there was in the documentary, it does talk a little bit about talks a lot about his struggles with him not necessarily struggling with his body image, but also struggling with his body image. So
right, but and also alcohol. Like
alcohol was a big,
his weight, for lack of a better term, certainly wasn't his only issue.
Yeah.
And so that's fine. That's a great question that you've posed here. Isaiah has posed, why do people who bring joy to others often struggle to love themselves? You've commented on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is that because I think it's we'll come into the next part, which is coping mechanism, is if we can bring joy to someone else, maybe it will help us heal a little bit. And I think that's part of it is it does that moment in time of bringing joy to someone else. So it brings joy to us at that point in time, but it doesn't fix the true problem down the line, right?
I also think it's deflection.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. I actually, from that perspective, I think that if you focus on somebody else, if somebody asks you a question, if John Candy was asked a question, he could do that, and he was well known for it, as evidenced by the people who talk about him in the documentary, as making everyone who he spoke to feel like they're the most important person in the world.
Yeah,
and making his fans feel loved, and making everyone around him just feel so important. And when people are talking about, most people want to talk about themselves.
Yeah,
to a point.
Yeah, no.
And so if you can deflect inward, and then you don't have to deal with whatever turmoil you have. And did he struggle really with self-love? I feel like that actually is not evidence in the documentary.
I think yes and no. I think there in the documentary there's a little bit of. I think it was more he struggled with the passing of his father and his thought of mortality, and I think that through the documentary it seemed like that was his struggle. Was he knew he was mortal from like a very young age, and that he thought he was bound to die early, and he lived an extra 10 years over, or a little bit more, because he thought he was going to die at 35. That was like the big one.
At 43.
And
which is a year older than me, which is terrifying.
Yeah, I know, right?
But like the whole title of the documentary is I Like Me, and so when he was asked about his weight and things like that, he was like, I'm fine. I like me. I'm good.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that all in and of itself is a deflection to make people back off, and well, or is that more of him actually being self-accepted because he's successful and he's a successful movie and TV career. Like, he's doing all right. He's got a nice family. He's got a nice wife. He's got good kids. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think it seemed like before he had kids, at least from what I got from the documentary, before he had kids, he had a lot more of a self-loathing, a trying to be wanting to be something more than just John Candy, the fat funny guy.
Yeah, I got that a little, but not. I didn't feel like that was a main takeaway of the. But that's just my perspective.
Yeah. I think it was like, I think what I took away from it, like in his early years, that was him until he had kids.
Yeah,
and then when he had kids, it changed his perspective.
But I think asking the question, like, why do people who are bringing that joy and making people feel warm and happy and loved on and off screen, I think that there probably is a struggle there.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's there's so many people that bring joy to people, like that definitely like go down dark paths, like Anthony Bourdain. Oh goodness. That's the main one that pops in my head, but I know there's a bunch that just.
Yeah, a lot of times to be humorous is to understand what that pain is, so you can, depending on how you define humor, like some humor is that kind of living in that dark space and finding the funny within that, right?
Which kind of leads us into the next part, which is humor is a coping mechanism, right?
Yeah.
And I think what I got out of it was he did use, again, a lot in that early years before kids, it as a coping mecanism.
And I think it has not to do with his weight, but to do with his mortality.
Yeah.
And I think that, dealing with that early loss of the father, because there's that moment when John Belushi died where he said, "Oh no, it's starting."
Yeah.
Where he's reported as saying, "Oh no, it's starting," as in that fun, carefree, invincible nature of that almost all young people have. They were partying hard in those days. Like those, when you read anything about those early SNL days and SCTV days, they were doing lots of partying.
They were.
And the whole nature, whatever you've read about SNL, like the nature of that beast is to be like work all night, several nights, and then party really hard for a few days, and like maintaining that kind of of lifestyle. It sometimes takes outside forces, cocaine, alcohol, all kinds of things, because and you feel like nothing bad can happen when you're young unless you've had something take that away from you. And I think that's where his, like, I don't think it with him was a real insecurity, at least not one that he vocalized. To a point, there was insecurity there, but I don't think it. I think it was more mortality that he was afraid of.
Yeah, that's right. I think it was him thinking, I'm going to die. My dad died at 35. I am going to die at 35.
Right.
And there's nothing I'm going to be able to do about it. And then there was a part where like his brother had a heart attack at the studio, and they talk about like how he was like, "Oh, my brother doesn't take care of himself."
Right.
And just drinking and smoking his feelings away a little bit.
And maybe you have this in your list later, but I think this is a good time to think. I'm sorry to go off book, Isaiah, but let's say number 3 is what role your friends and family play when they are concerned about you. And that does come up in the documentary. And like they all, like a lot of the people who were interviewed would say like, we didn't really know what to say. We were worried about him, but what could we say? Like, we were also partying. And what does that mean? Like, how do you broach that with somebody you care about?
Yeah, like it's and we've talked about before, right? It is like there's the there are times where you want to hear it and times where you don't want to hear it. And depending on how it is approached, it can feel very hateful, even if it's not meant to feel that way.
Well, even his wife talks about buying increasingly larger sizes for him.
Yeah.
And she would kind of gently say, well, you do know this is the biggest size that I can buy for this shirt. And he's like, oh, buy the shirt. Like, you know, this the size I am, I gotta have clothes kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a very healthy attitude about it, because I know when I creep up in sizes, I get really truly self-loathing. And I don't know if that's a difference between men and women or a difference between just who he was, because he felt loved. He had those buckets filled, like with wife, kids, children. Well, kids and children, not separate things. He also had goats. No. And that kind of thing, you know, maybe he did feel fulfilled, and it was really just kind of like we've talked about before. He'd rather be fat and happy, and he knows he's dying anyway, so might as well eat and drink and be merry.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that was like a huge thing with him, right? Is just, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna live how I want to live,
right? Which I think brings you into what you have in being boxed in as the fat funny one, and in addition to the authenticity versus industry expectations. Like, it didn't seem to damage him in the way that it could damage somebody, but he was often labeled as the funny fat guy, and he'd lean into that in those sketches. Like, he'd fall and break a table, and kind of early inspiration for the next fat funny guy, Chris Farley.
Yeah, oh, for sure. But if you like, in the interviews they showed, it was very clear that he hated when people asked him about it.
Right.
When people talked about it in those interviews, he very much like shot back every time it came up.
Because he just wanted to be the funny guy.
Yeah, he wanted to be the funny guy. A lot of his early sketches, he had nothing to do with his weight, had nothing to do with outside of just being, what can I do to make people laugh?
One of the things, and I'll bring this, and we've kind of danced around this before, and I've gone back and forth on this, is my own comedy writing. Not that in any way I compare myself to the genius that is John Candy or anybody that famous, but I in case you all haven't heard, I am fat. Like, talked about that for 2.5 years now. But part of me, and when I first started doing comedy, I wanted to talk about everything but that. And then through conversations with other comics, like, you've kind of got to identify the thing that is very obvious to people, and either you say it or they think, why isn't she saying that? And even subconsciously, to the point where a lot of material in the last year that I've written has been about that. And now I'm trying to veer away from it again, like, and still have it in there to identify it, because I started to realize that I was kind of becoming niche.
Yeah.
And this is only in like a amateur New Brunswick comedy scene kind of situation. Like, oh, there's the funny fat girl or whatever. And I don't have any reputation to uphold. Nobody knows me as that.
Yeah.
Like, whereas he was doing that professionally. And even if he tried to do something different, like, there's the interview where he had lost 70 pounds.
Yeah. And they were
like, what are you doing? Like, you're not going to be able to do your job anymore.
Right. Yeah. Then they talked about, you're not going to be able to be who you are if you lose this weight. And then he was like, then that he gained even more weight because he was just like, well, I guess they want me to be this way.
And like, we've had all kinds of discussions about, you know, weight and how that doesn't necessarily mean you're unhealthy and all of those things. However, with the health markers that he had,
right,
which, you know, heart, blood pressure, all of those things, the weight certainly was not the only factor, but certainly a contributing factor to that kind of stuff. Yeah,
no, for sure. Like, I mean, it's part of when you're going into the doctor, it's like, what's your family history? And clearly his family history has heart problems, right? So but I think part of it was that he felt stuck in that. Once he became something more, he felt like he was stuck in that, I'm the funny fat person. They kind of talk about how he didn't like it, like in Stripes, that was like his first real movie, and they put him in that role of the fat guy, and he didn't like it. But then as he became more and more famous, that became his role.
Yeah. But you know, at the end of the day, like he's also an excellent actor.
Oh
Like,
my God, so
have
good.
you seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles?
I've seen probably almost every John Candy movie.
Like he and Steve Martin playing the straight guy.
So good.
And he's just so endearing, and he's being an asshat, but he's just so likable.
So good.
And I wonder if he'd be as likable if he wasn't fat. Like, and I'm sure he would be, but like, I don't know. It seems like as good a place as any to.
Yeah. So we'll end this episode here, and we'll come back next week, and we'll talk a little bit about his like legacies and the things that
and health and wellness generally.
And a little bit about it. Yeah. So before we leave, where can people find us on the internet?
Find us at Kate and Isaiah Living Large on the Facebook.
Of course, you can find me at Maritime Brews on all of the social medias. We do have the Buy Me a Coffee still going. I put my hands in the wrong spot for you in the video. We have the Buy Me a Coffee still going if you want to donate to us. And of course, if you're listening wherever you listen to your podcast, if you can like, share, subscribe over there, or you can hop on over to YouTube and watch our beautiful faces talk a little bit about John Candy. And if you are on YouTube, if you can like, share, subscribe, comment over here, much appreciated. And until next week, bye.